Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Neil Howard, here on Health Professional Radio. Glad that you could join us again. In this segment, we're going to be speaking with Dr. Kenneth Gruber, founder and chief scientific officer at Endevica Bio. It's a company focused on a new standard of care for cancer cachexia patients. He's going to talk about cachexia, also known as wasting syndrome, why it's so prevalent in cancer, and the challenges treating it. Welcome to Health Professional Radio, Dr. Gruber. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Well, as founder and chief scientific officer of Endevica Bio, give us a brief look into your professional background and talk about Endevica Bio's mission.
I have my bachelor's and doctorate degrees from New York University, and when I did my fellowship, I was working on and became very interested in a class of drugs called peptides, which are sort of like a word in that it's formed by different compounds called amino acids in a string, and different amino acids convey different messages, just like words, to different parts of the body. Mm-hmm. And a lot of diseases are problems in the peptide system. And therefore, ideally, you would want a peptide to correct it, but it's hard to make peptides drug-like. And our company has figured out ways of making peptides drug-like.
Well, how does that relate to the problem of cachexia? First of all, what is cachexia and who is at risk?
Cachexia is not really a disease by itself, but is part of many, many other diseases that involve activation of the immune system. And there are compounds secreted by the immune system that are quite therapeutic in various kinds of diseases or conditions. The problem is cachexia, just like in many of the drugs we take, cachexia is a side effect. It's a wasting syndrome where you lose lean body mass. And the most prominent part of lean body mass is skeletal muscle. But all your organs are also lean body mass. The wasting of muscle mass is a sentinel for what's happening to all your organ systems. And that's why cachexia can actually kill you in its worst form.
Why is it prevalent in cancer?
Because cancer, now we realize, over the last 5 to 10 years, we realize that cancer involves a lot of inflammation. That activates the immune system. And the compounds that are secreted by the immune system are called pro-inflammatory cytokines. They help to cure the inflammation. The problem is cachexia is a huge side effect, and that's why patients with cancer often die not of the cancer, but of cachexia. They die of multi-organ failure.
So while you're treating the cancer, you have to treat the cachexia in a totally different way, or is there a treatment for cachexia specifically?
Other than our drug, we are a first-in-class drug going through the FDA approval process. There really is no drug that specifically treats the cachexia. Cachexia is a effect that produces hypermetabolism. If you think about your cell as being the engine that drives life in your body, that gets you to be able to metabolize foods into energy, cachexia means that you're running your engine in the red line. And just like when you run your car engine in the red line, it doesn't last very long. Mm-hmm. And in your cells, when your cell in the red line, eventually they go into what's called cell-mediated suicide. They just can't take high metabolic rate.
What is the main reason why there hasn't been a pharmaceutical treatment for cachexia up until your company developing one as we speak?
Well, the first problem was, even though cachexia was correctly diagnosed as a whole body disease 2,000 years ago by Hippocrates, until 25 or 30 years ago, the prevailing concept of cachexia was it was merely a wasting away of muscle mass because of a lack of food intake due to bad appetite. And so the solution everybody was using was to stuff calories in somebody. Mm-hmm. Well, cachexia means that one of the symptoms is you're inefficient in converting your food intake into energy. And the solution to an inefficient car engine is not putting more gas in the tank. It's solving the inefficiency. Our drug does that. And over the last decade or so, well, it's 20 years, people have begun to understand the problem of cachexia, and it's in the central nervous system, in the brain. The problem is the brain protects itself by a blood-brain barrier. And that really means that many substances which would potentially be therapeutic to diseases of the brain can't get through the blood-brain barrier. I started the company 13 years ago, knowing this problem, and immediately developed or tried to develop and succeeded in developing drugs that would cross the blood-brain barrier. And that's the first drug that would specifically be developed to cross the blood-brain barrier to treat the problems in the brain producing cachexia.
Does your compound essentially suppress immune response in a cancer patient, while at the same time there are compounds trying to strengthen the immune response because of the therapy?
No. Mm-hmm. Our compound specifically treats only the side effect produced by activation of the immune system, cachexia. It does not affect the immune system at all. Mm-hmm. In point of fact, it should, though we have not been able to demonstrate this yet, it should actually improve the immune system responses, because the immune system is part of lean body mass. So if we're preventing the destruction of lean body mass, in theory, we should be enhancing the immune system.
Once your treatment is tested and gains FDA approval, what, in your opinion, do you think this is going to mean for patients and medical professionals as well when it comes to cachexia?
Well, the first thing it means is that your wasting disease is going to be reversed. Either you're not going to get it, or you're going to actually gain muscle mass. And we've done this, and not just, in rodents, rats or mice. We've actually been able to do this in veterinary hospitals in client-owned dogs who present to the veterinarian with cachexia due to many different diseases. We've actually been able to go in a clinical trial, a veterinary trial, and save lives or make the animal feel much better, even though he has a potentially fatal disease. And we've extended life in animals for over a year.
Give us some information where we can learn more about this promising treatment online.
We have a website that describes our research, and it's www.endevicabio.com, and that's ENDEVICABIO.com.
Well, Doctor, I appreciate you joining us here on Health Professional Radio this morning. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, and I'm hoping to get some updates as your testing and your approval draws closer, okay?
Thank you very much. I will be sure to do that.
Thank you. You've been listening to Health Professional Radio. I'm your host, Neil Howard, in conversation with Dr. Kenneth Gruber, founder and chief scientific officer of Endevica Bio. Audio copies of this program are available at hpr.fm and healthprofessionalradio.com.au. You can also subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, listen in, download at SoundCloud, and be sure and subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Health Professional Radio.